Hey guys, this is Sky with another episode, and today my guest is.
Simon Barnabas, the male singer from Tiny Forehead.
Thank you for helping me out this morning, and I appreciate it, buddy.
Yeah,
You gotta
yeah,
love technology, right?
yeah. We got there in the end.
So, Simon, tell me a little bit about your band for those who are not exactly up to speed.
Yeah. Tiny Forehead, we are a band based in Boston, UK. That's the original Boston, would you believe, before the big one in America. And we been together. It's about 4 years, just after COVID. Kind of the lockdown ended. Um, We are considered, I don't know, we have different ideas about what genre we are, but we are the six of us. Um, we've got the definitive lineup just sort of landed really. So there's me on vocals, there's Tilly Grace Cooper, the other female vocalist. We've got Rob on lead guitar, Tony on rhythm guitar, Simon Matudowitz on bass, and Len Gould on drums. And we're still looking for a female keyboard player, but we're still knocking out the hits in clubs as we speak. Um, yeah, and that's sort of like a whistle stop tour of when we started, who we are.
Okay, cool. Um, I would definitely say your music does mesh several different genres together.
Yeah,
I'm catching some indie, some new wave.
yeah,
Um, Even a little bit of almost a little bit of hint of gothic overtones at some
yeah,
points.
yeah.
Could you what bands inspired you guys?
Well, I think the reason that we're hard to pigeonhole is because the sort of policy is that when somebody joins the band, we don't tell them to play a certain way or in a certain style or like ever. And that has really made it quite original and unpredictable. I mean, regarding stuff we listen to, um, me and Simon are quite inspired by Northern Soul. I'm not sure if that has a meaning in America, but it's basically
Hmm?
like is it a thing in America, Northern Soul?
Yeah,
Uh,
we either call it a Northern Soul or sometimes we call it Blue-Eyed Soul.
yeah. That's the kind of thing. And it's so we like kind of that, and obviously we both like goth as well. And I was pretty much raised on punk. So that's kind of my and more like Simon. Rob, the lead guitarist, he likes sort of indie, late 90s, early noughties indie. Tilly likes soul music, as well as all the indie stuff like Radiohead and whatnot. Um, Len and Tony probably more classic rock. So you can see already how it kind of sort of festers in the alcohol jar a bit, and we've ended up sounding like we have, which is really good. I don't think we sound like anybody on the UK scene that we're aware of. Um, but obviously you can hear influences like we also love early B-52s, Pixies, that male female thing. Um, so I guess that's something in there too. But we kind of play. No one really knows how to pigeonhole us, so we play a lot of punk stuff, punk bills. We're increasingly getting invited to goth stuff, which we love, and maybe that's more of our home, perhaps goth. But we would be like the clown princes of goth, really. We're not probably somber enough to climb out of your average coffin. Um, yeah, but we're sort of like floating around, really.
I mean, that's great. Your music definitely keeps me on my toes because it's like I said, it's very unique and it's
Yeah,
also you're never going to hear the same thing twice.
yeah,
So that's something I really appreciate as a fan of the music. Because as you
cool.
know, some bands can be very repetitive at times. You're like, oh, I
Yeah,
know they're going to play this, I know they're going to play that.
yeah.
Um, but with you guys, you never know what you're going to get.
That includes playing live. But yeah, no, thank you. I mean, that is a compliment, and I know what you mean. Like we go to a lot of gigs between us all, and there was some, even some punk gigs where you think, my days, man, this is just going to be another three chord chorus, verse, and but I wouldn't say that about all punk. I still think it's quite a vibrant scene and quite different. Um, but yeah, we want to try and do something different and have a laugh while we're doing it.
What is your typical live shows like?
Um, I mean, I'm not even sure there is a typical one because we've played literally from skinhead bills through to goth, through to extremely indie, and then even on classic rock bills where we've completely thrown the audience, you know. But I guess we bring a lot of energy, um, and because I wear this mask, I've there's some reason the feedback happens if I move. So I've almost by default I have to kind of stay rooted. But for some reason, Tilly's mic doesn't feedback, so she can walk around. So it's almost like we were forced into a certain stage presence. Um, but yeah, it's a lot of banter between us and the audience. We try and make the audience laugh a bit. But also, I mean, our songs are pretty serious, really. You know, maybe a comparison would be The Damned, you know. But
Oh, that's one of my favorite punk bands of all time.
yeah, yeah, me too. Absolute
Uh,
legends. Yeah.
oh yes, yes. I even listened to their last album they put out, and I was just like, they still have it.
Yeah, yeah. They're still very much respected playing live. Yeah. And they've earned it too, haven't they? They're pretty prolific. Yeah.
So, what inspired The Mask? I'm curious about that.
Yeah. Um, well, at the minute, we all have to have day jobs, you know, and I've got a day job that it wouldn't really lend itself to internet presence very well. I'm not a cop or anything, don't worry. But I haven't made many friends. It's, well, that's how it started. And then I think it then got people, you know, started talking about the dude in the mask. Interestingly, a lot of bands are wearing masks or balaclavas now. I noticed a lot more. But maybe that's the same reason, you know. But so it's a mixture really of not wanting an internet presence where my real face is on, and also maybe just it became a thing. Um, I mean, I don't want to steal, you know, all the thunder from Tilly because I'm incredibly beautiful anyway. But yeah, that's that's what happened. Yeah,
That's
but
why you
it's
were.
the gigs. Yeah. I mean, at gigs I wouldn't get any trouble, and I can certainly handle myself. But it's just like I say, you have like a video of a gig or social media photographs, and you'll get some turnip turning up and potentially causing hassle I don't need. So yeah,
That's understandable. I understand why certain artists prefer to wear a mask just so they can
yeah,
have that anonymity. Am I saying that right?
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
that way, when you're off stage and you're kind of milling about, most people don't know who you are. It just makes things easier. Um, I know when I was in a punk band, we all wore like ski masks
yeah,
because the only way you could probably possibly identify us is by our tattoos. And even
yeah,
then, a lot of the times I wore long sleeves and I wore gloves to cover up
yeah,
anything on my hands. Um, so
yeah,
I mean, I wish I could say I miss those days, but at the same time, I don't.
yeah, yeah,
Uh, Punk shows are interesting at times.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
uh,
big time.
so what is your musical background? Where did you get your start in music?
Well, I started young, eh, sort of mid-teens, about 15, and I was prolifically playing in bands from about age 15 till about age 24. We played what's called the London toilet scene, which is just like all the small venues that were quite well known. They were like a rite of passage. We had a good fun. But then after 24, life happened. For reasons looking back, I can't really explain. But I just sort of walked away from music. And um, there was a period of my life where I used to think music kind of interpreted things and made life easier for me. And that's why I identified with lyrics. But then I got to the point where I wanted to sort of handle life on my own and not need that crutch. And maybe that was some of my thinking. But anyway, as I got older and older, I started getting more and more into music. really missing it. And long story short, I restarted the band. I got a gift of a guitar for one of my birthdays, and originally I was just going to learn guitar for my personal use, but I just thought, you know what, man, I just want to do a band. So I was originally going to be the bass player in Tiny Forehead, and we've been looking for a female singer since we started, and but nothing ever worked out past auditions. And in the end, I thought, oh, sod it, I'll just sing. And I can't sing and play at the same time. Or I was learning to do it, but it would have taken another year. COVID had just finished. It was time to get out in the world, and just get out. So we brought in Simon, and that's kind of my musical journey in a nutshell. And I'm just so glad I did. I'm just so gutted I waited so long. But to be fair, when you've got kids and a job, you obviously with the kids, little kids, you're not
Oh
able
yeah.
to do, and that's why it's Tiny Forehead. We've either had sort of literally teenagers in the band or people north of a certain age, because the people in between just rammed with childcare and careers, and traveling, and yeah. So that's why we've had a few lineups, and the early lineups of Forehead all over the internet. You'll see half the band are literally teenagers. Tilly is a teenager, but this current lineup, it just so happens it's more sort of old guys. But yeah,
I I can definitely understand that. I'm just now getting back into making music, and I've got a toddler.
yeah. Oh
So
wow.
it's one of the yeah, so it's like one of those things where everybody goes to bed at like 9 o'clock, but I'm up until like 2 or 3 in the morning working on music. And of course go to
Yeah,
bed, and you know how little kids are. They want to get up at like
yeah,
5 in the morning. You're just like, oh my
mm,
God, I just need caffeine and nicotine
yeah,
for like an hour. Then I
yeah,
can get going.
yeah.
Um, but I will
I've
agree,
been there.
having kids can
Yeah,
definitely, it has a challenge. Just got to make sure that you're balanced and everything.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, it wouldn't have been possible, certainly with my two. But yeah, no. So we did it, But there's a big chunk of my life where I wasn't doing music really. And yeah, just a bit gutted that I wasn't. But seize the day and all that, and we're going for it full throttle. Yeah,
I mean, I can understand it. There was a time where I didn't want to touch music. I went through
yeah,
that. It just I would listen to it every now and then, but I just didn't want to
yeah,
perform anymore. I didn't want to do
yeah,
anything. I wanted to focus on the family and focus on my
yeah,
career and just make
yeah,
sure that, if I decided to do music, that everything was squared away and I wouldn't have to worry so much.
yeah,
Um, but then even now, get back into it, I'm like, oh yeah, still got this to do, still got that to do, and I'm like, okay, yeah, it didn't make any difference.
Well, well, you've still got a little one too,
Yeah, I have five altogether,
Wow,
four
wow,
daughters and a son.
wow. On my days, girls are worse.
Are they really?
I got, I got two girls and a boy. Yeah, yeah,
I don't know. My daughters are actually better than my son.
really.
Yeah, so I kind of lucked out on that one.
Yeah, I think you did, mate. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, yeah, I know what it's like, and you in a band up and coming band, you've got to have that ability to take a good gig at last minute, really, if you can.
Yeah,
And we're fortunate we can, generally speaking, do that. But I think if I had childcare, you just couldn't do it. Because it is hard to get gigs in the UK. I don't know what it's like in the States, but if you're an up and coming alternative band, it is very hard to get a gig, A, and B, get paid for said gig. I mean, even now we're generally just making petrol money. It's a tough scene, and we're actually a full band. There's six of us, and there will be. Is there six of us? Hang on, one, two, three. I can, I keep getting confused. That many in my band. One, two, three, four, five, six. Yeah, there's six of us, and maybe a seventh with a keys player. But that's quite a big band. But a lot of bands nowadays, it's just a solo artist with their own backing tracks or a two piece. And I think a lot of that's about economics as much as anything else. Um, so it's not a good time to be in a band, but
Right.
we're still going for it. Yeah.
No, I understand because if you're in a band that big, you got to make sure that everyone gets their piece of what's happening. Now in America, we're kind of going through well, you probably already know we're going through a rough time right now.
Yeah.
But where I live, a lot of the clubs now won't let you play there unless you pay the club first, and then they
Wow.
still get a chunk of the merchandise that you sell.
Wow. That is insane, isn't it? It's pay to play. It's called, isn't it? And I think
Yeah,
it's just daylight robbery. And no wonder the music scene struggles with that kind of attitude. Um, but I mean, I'm also part of a collective. We put on local gigs where we live. The Boston Original Bands Initiative, or Bobby for short, for grassroots acts, and they have to play original music, none of this cover stuff. And yeah, we just ended up doing it ourselves because there wasn't any club or pub that would really have an original band. They just want AC/DC tributes, and you know, um, so sometimes you've got to go out and do it. But yeah, there are a lot of places that are like that, um, or in some way like that. And I think that's, when hard times hit, there's the people who help the scene, and then there's the people who feed off it like vultures. Um, but there's always the good guys, I think. And fortunately in the UK, there are a lot of really good venues that still fly the flag for looking after musicians and encouraging the scene.
yeah. I wish we had that where I'm stationed at. I really do. But and then another kicker is a friend of mine was getting ready to play a gig, and then the venue said, "Well, have you sold 100 tickets yet?"
Oh,
And he was like, "We didn't know we had to sell tickets." He's like, "Well, then you can't play the show tonight." And I was like, "That's ridiculous."
yeah,
I remember the days where you would just show up to the gig, play, and if you made a little money off of it, great. If
yeah,
not, oh well, you still got to play. So it's become almost like a monopoly in a sense with how the
yeah,
music scene works. Then again, where I'm at, there's not much of a music scene anymore. It's mostly a lot of country music, which no,
yeah,
thank you. Um, and there is no punk scene, there is no metal scene, there is no goth scene at all.
yeah.
Um, so it's kind of disheartening at times.
Maybe now's the time to set your own thing up, man. Yeah,
I would, but I'm kind of like a solo artist. It'd be me and a drum machine and a laptop.
no, I mean, like
So
hire a club that's failing, and say, look, can we have Saturday nights? You take all the bar, we take the doors. That's pretty much what we did. I think the key is you got to find a club or a pub that's about to close. It's desperate. Um, but I mean, for instance, when we do Bobby, it works because the last one we did, we're actually using a theatre now, like a playhouse, and they want to reach out to younger people with music, and they took something like 600 quid on the bar, with only a fairly modest amount of punters. But I think we had about 45. So you can see, and that was the same amount of takings for like a full house watching a proper play. So it can be done. So yeah, but obviously you got to think about the sound engineer getting paid, and there's all
yeah.
those kind of complications. But yeah,
Have you guys ever thought about playing the States?
do you know we'd love to? I'm pretty sure, given a certain president and things, I'd be detained at the airport because I'm not a fan. And so,
Don't feel bad.
yeah, yeah. Straight up, I think all of us would be detained and what do you call it? Deported. And that happens quite a lot anyway, I think. Did you hear about the UK subs, the punk band? They all went to the States for a tour. Somehow the singer got through, but the rest of the band were detained and sent home. And the singer had to recruit a load of American fans who knew the songs to do the tour. He still did it. I think that's amazing.
That's that's crazy, but that also is a pretty amazing story.
Yeah. Yeah.
uh,
No, but I'd love to answer I'd love to play the States. Actually, I honeymooned in the States, and I've been to the States twice since, and I've really enjoyed it. But yeah, I just think current events and stuff. But yeah, definitely would be a place that I want to tour, as well as Europe. There are rumors the Europeans, they give you food, they pay you, you get a
mhm.
hotel room, the way it should be. But there's problems even because UK left the European Union. There's problems on the borders even here because you need a very complicated. Is it called a carnet or something? You've got to itemize all your equipment and have everything ticked, and the border guards on each side just get funny about it. Um, so it's pretty hard. I've heard of German bands getting turned away at UK borders and vice versa, and it's a messed up time, man. So
It is. It is. I thought COVID would possibly bring people together more, but instead it
yeah,
just seemed like it separated people. Um,
it has. It has, and we sing about that. And the interesting thing is, we never set out to be political at all. I just wanted to sing like the Cramps did about things that go gaga in the night. But actually, I just got more and more angry with all this crap, and so we're increasingly more political, which is probably unusual for a kind of gothish band who aren't sort of famed for being particularly political. But there you go, man. There's lots to sing about, that's for sure.
there is a lot to sing about. There's a lot of anger and angst out there because of everything that's going on.
Mm,
It just seems like it's a free for all. If you can do it, you can do it. If you can't, you can't. Um,
yeah,
and like I said, you know how the conditions are here, so it's
yeah,
gotten worse. And there's a lot of bands that I know that are from other countries that will straight up say, no, we refuse.
mm,
Um, which is horrible because there's a lot of good bands I would love to see, but now they're not
mm,
even going to bother coming over here
mm,
because, like you said, they're afraid that they're going to be detained. And
yeah,
then next thing you know, they're losing a bunch of money because of concerts they couldn't perform.
yeah, yeah, big
So,
time.
because
I
especially here in
think,
the States, go ahead.
yeah. Sorry, go ahead, man.
No, 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 you first.
Well, I was going to say, I think the political winds might be beginning to change. I think there's hope in the air, but I think it's going to take a while. But yeah, and I guess when things do stabilize and resanitize, there'll be a lot of creative gaps, won't there? There'll be a lot of energy suddenly. That would be my thoughts.
I think so, definitely. This year kind of started off really bad,
Yeah,
but like you said, lately, people are opening up their eyes a lot more and
yeah,
realizing the three ring circus that things
yeah,
have become,
yeah.
and a lot of people that supported he who shall not be named
Yes,
are turning their backs on him because of everything he's doing now, and it's a
yeah,
mockery of what our country stands for.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
which that makes punk music thrive. That makes death metal thrive. I wouldn't say black metal because they always pretty much stick to the same formula. So
yeah,
I know
yeah,
grindcore is definitely thriving
yeah,
because I mean they get much more political than grindcore music. Um,
yeah,
especially bands like Napalm Death come to mind. Those guys
yeah,
always have an agenda and
yeah,
they don't hold back. Uh, Unfortunately, I
yeah.
missed them. They were here a few months ago, and I actually missed them playing, which was kind of sad. But maybe at some point I'll see them again. It just all kind of depends on what's going on. So
Yeah, well, you'll get around to it, man. But yeah, I think we got to believe in hope. But yeah, tough times, eh? But tough times fosters um, response, doesn't it? And creativity, I think.
it has for me for sure. Um, it's yeah for me personally. I don't know from you from what you said with your lyrics.
Yeah.
You said you guys are political. Are there any other type of topics you guys like to touch on as well?
I mean, I've touched on things like the workplace. I mean, I'm kind of old enough to remember when you could walk out of a job on a Friday, start on a Monday somewhere. You know, that the whole got this thing called the gig economy, which is just shorthand for rip-off. Where capitalism just goes for the biggest amount of money profit and just completely tramples on the worker. So things like that, my day job, I'm pretty good at it, but you can literally, there's not enough hours in the week to do it, and it would just destroy you if you let it. So we sing about workplace stuff, and a lot, and yeah, increasingly singing about politics. We think a lot about. I mean, is it even we're sort of writing stuff now about the scene itself, and on top of the problems I've already listed, the other problem we've got in the scene is I just think I'd call them scene cloggers or time wasters. Like bedroom Jimi Hendrix, who literally barely leave the bedroom. They put out a load of streaming content, clog up the streaming airwaves, and bands who are just time wasters, who they won't travel more than a certain distance, and prima donnas. We sometimes meet them in Bobby, people who do no promotion for the event, and the list goes on. And I think you got to be careful you don't turn into some old Karen, But I just think that there has to be uh, that's a problem, in the music scene. And I think another problem is the amount of political stuff we've just touched on, you and I. We know who we're talking about, he who cannot be named. And that just trickles down into the music where you've got in Britain we call them gammons, people who got red face and shout a lot about things they think they've lost, like and British identity, and that's in the punk scene. It's amazing to think it is, but it is, So it seems to me like a lot of punks put on the old leather jackets and the glue on the Mohican, and it's like pantomime.
Yeah.
To my mind, you don't have to look like a punk to be a punk. I mean, the original punks were court jesters and then folk music. That punk's about an attitude, not about a look. It just so happened that in the mid 70s it had a kind of certain look. But even then, bands like the Buzzcocks were in their granddad's tank tops and flares. If you look hard, most of the punk bands didn't even look punk; they just sounded punk. Um, so I talk about that a bit, and that's really contentious. In my personal opinion, in the Brit, and now I'm going to be really controversial here. I think the best British punk band at the moment playing live that are they're not new, but they're on the scene is the Sleaford Mods, because that to me is punk. It doesn't, it's not the traditional two guitars, bass, drums, whatever. It's a guy on the program keyboard and another guy singing, almost rapping over the top. But if you listen to the lyrics, that they are very punk, and they're talking about the bleakness of being in a low-paid job in Britain, um, and that kind of stuff. So I think that is punk. Punk has to evolve. These are things we sing about, and I'm not even sure if we are a punk band, to be honest. I mean, that's the other thing, isn't it? It's like we're like the bands you get on punk CDs back in the day. For every punk band, there'd be like a Blondie track or Eddie and the Hot Rods, but they weren't punk, but they were punk adjacent, and went down really well. So I guess we're punk adjacent, but we're probably not even punk, whatever punk is. There you go. That's a bit of a long sentence.
No, but it makes sense though. Like you said, punk is a state of mind, it's an
Yeah,
attitude, but
yeah,
it's a fashion show like any other scene. It's become a
yeah,
fashion show.
yeah,
Um, which there's bands that I admire. Um, I know Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds is a band I highly
yeah,
admire and respect.
yeah, yeah,
Um, they started off as punk
yeah,
way back, and then they've kind of materialized into their own kind of dark and groovy and just very poetic. Seeing them live was a religious experience for me, to be honest with you. Um,
yeah,
but a lot of the bands, like you said, the Buzzcocks, um, they definitely didn't look punk, but they put out some of the most punk material out there. Um, and a lot of their stuff wasn't really technical. It was three-chord progressions,
no,
but it was poppy, it was catchy, kind of like The Damned. It was very
yeah,
catchy.
yeah.
Um, I mean, my favorite Damned song is still Love Song.
Well,
Um,
okay, yeah, yeah. third album.
So,
Yeah, yeah,
um, but and then a lot of things that happened in Britain, like the skinhead culture and all that,
yeah,
it immigrated here in America, and it's a pretty
yeah,
thriving scene as well now.
yeah, yeah,
Um, so I can't really say anything about that other than it's great. Um,
yeah.
so, well, all right, Simon, is there anything else you'd like to say to our audience?
Well, it's great that you guys listen in to this show, and I think it's really important that grassroots shows and radio shows are a thing, because that's where we got our big break with music going out and people listening. And I personally think the days of streaming will end, and I still think it'll be this kind of thing that carries forward. I think it just needs one big band to completely sue and shut down Spotify. It's inevitable because it's obviously a scam, isn't it? So I think that, yeah, keep fighting the fight, flying the flag. Good on you,
Uh, I appreciate it, Simon. Um, Once again, guys, this has been another episode. Please support Tiny Forehead. I promise you, you will not be disappointed. I'll link everything about them in the description of the video. And thanks for tuning in, guys. Have a good night.